Hello everyone. Welcome to a new chess video. I present to you the Dutch defense. This fearsome defense you see right now on the board, it's so simple and so effective that I'm completely sure that when you finish watching this video, most of you are going to start playing this defense in all of your games. When can we use the Dutch defense? When they play the queen's pawn, all right? We're going to play the Dutch defense when they play d4. The Dutch defense is this move right here, f5, and it hides some plans that are going to blow your mind. The most common move order for the white pieces is to first play c4. Actually, the good thing about this defense is that we don't care much about what our opponent does because we're always going to do the same thing, which we love. Our second move, let's remember it well, will be e6. For now, we're already seeing that our attack is gonna go towards this side. You always have to learn to read and learn to talk to your pawns. Wherever your pawn chain points is where your attack is gonna go. Here, white can make several moves. Among the most common are knight c3, developing a knight, or knight f3, developing the other knight. They're the two most used, but we don't care because we're gonna play knight f6. And now, when they play knight c3, which we were expecting, we'll make this move that you have to remember. When they play knight c3, we'll come with the bishop to b4. A very important move. Why is this move so important? Now you're going to see. Here, white can do many things. A horrible move would be trying to kick out this bishop from here, because what we want is to exchange this bishop for this knight. We want to do it no matter what. So if they play a 3, they're letting us capture while gaining a tempo. A much better move would be e3, for example, right? Keeping the center solid so they can also develop the bishop. But no matter how much they play e3, what do we want to do? Exchange this bishop for the knight. Here, I'm sure many of you are thinking, wait, chess teacher, how can it be that on the fourth move, you're already giving the opponent the bishop pair for nothing? Well, this is very important because if you're watching this video, you're going to understand. What we want to do in the Dutch defense is fight for this square right here, which is called the e4 square. Why is this square so important? Because it's going to allow us to control the whole game. So if we know we want to control e4, we've just eliminated a defender of the e4 square directly, because this knight was defending it perfectly. And besides, this square is a light square, right? So our dark squared bishop could never defend this square. We've traded a bishop that would never fight for this square for a knight that's the perfect defender of it. And now you'll see why it's so important to control the e4 point. Very well. Here, if you've already understood the logic of this position, you'll know that we must control this square. For example, after castling, they could play bishop e2 or a bit more precise, bishop d3. Why? You already know. And then we, following our plan, are going to reason for a moment. This bishop can't get out this way because it has a very large pawn barrier. So I'm going to develop it through the b7 square. And where does it point from the b7 square? Indeed, to the point we want to control. And not only that, but it points directly at the opponent's castling. So what are we going to do here? Bishop b7. As you can clearly see right here with this specific defense, if you truly understand the core ideas, you'll be significantly more dominant than your opponents. That's exactly why my main goal and purpose in this video is for you to perfectly understand these ideas, and you'll see why we have a wide variety of clever little tactical tricks that white can easily fall for. There really are many of them. Here, serious question, what could the white pieces do? As you can see, they have a difficult development. They'd love to break on e4 to free their bishop, but breaking on e4 isn't possible. Why? Because we've done our job very well of controlling the central square very well. Therefore, they can't break. This bishop can't get out from here. If they want, they can try to develop it through a3, but it's not a good move, as we simply block it with d6 and they're helping us. Now, this bishop does absolutely nothing, and they've helped us leave a free gap to develop our knight without wasting time. So if they play bishop a3, both now and later, you just have to remember that we're going to play d6. For what? To cut the bishop's diagonal. Simple as that. Now then, why is bishop a3 usually not the best plan? Because here, an interesting plan the white pieces have is to launch the a pawn into the attack. We really don't care much what they do to us. For example, if they try to jump towards the center, we must apply logic. d6 would make this knight retreat again. Therefore, as you can see, white doesn't have many moves to make. Very well, so here we can't waste any more time. We must act quickly. And what is that move where we must act quickly? Knight e4. We've done it. We've placed this beast of a piece in one of the best squares, if not the best square on the board. Not only does it attack the c3 pawn, but it controls some super important squares. We've placed the knight, as Nimzovich used to say, in an advanced outpost. And if we have the knight in an advanced post, it'll allow us to control the game. All right, right now we are moving in and attacking the c3 point. White can do several things. The first thing they could do would be to defend the pawn, but now let's see what would happen if they do that. You have to be very careful. Remember this well, okay, friends? Remember this well. Be very careful if they play knight to d2. They're pulling back the knight, but more importantly, they're giving us the c3 pawn. Should we take that pawn? No, and I'll explain why. If we take this pawn that at first seems free, they simply play queen to c2. And where do we move this knight? Well, the only square it has is to retreat to e4, so they could exchange it. And as you can see, white has recovered the pawn. They have a better center, they're attacking us hard, they're also attacking here, and most importantly, we've lost our whole attack and our knight. That's why we don't want to, and this is very important, if they play knight to d2, sorry, this missing pawn, if they play knight to d2, we don't want to take here. But don't worry, because we have an excellent move. Queen to h4. And now the problems begin for white. As you can see, all our pieces are pointing towards the king side, including the rook, which can join the attack. There are two typical moves here, which are the two that are always played against me, and both of them lose. Very well. The most typical one that they'll play against us almost every time is g3. They're threatening the queen. This queen here is very annoying. Since we're not threatening anything, they kick it out so that we leave. But here, friends, we have an incredible move. What is that move? Instead of moving the queen away, knight to g5. Spectacular. They can't take our queen because one of the most beautiful checkmates I've ever seen would follow. Knight to h3. Checkmate, since this bishop cuts off every possible escape route for the king. Therefore, here, if they attack the queen, knight to g5, this queen cannot be captured. But it's not just that the queen can't be captured, it's that, watch out, against almost any move, we have knight to h3. In this case, it would be checkmate again, because this square is controlled by the knight, and these two are controlled by the bishop. So here, let's see. This move here, queen to h4, which is very good, it's not possible to kick this queen out with g3. All right, chess teacher, it's not possible to kick the queen out with g3. So what are we threatening? Actually, we're not threatening anything here. You're absolutely right. This queen is aiming here, but no one else is aiming here. That is, the only thing we're really threatening now is to take on c3. Now, it would be possible because this queen is supporting the e4 point. So if we were to take here, queen c2 wouldn't work anymore because we could retreat and this point is very well defended. So here, what are the white pieces always going to do? Defend the c2 point. And if they don't do this, it's because they're kicking out our queen. But here, once again, we have won the game. I'll explain how to checkmate in this position because it's simple. You just have to pay close attention. Easily, we're going to let this bishop in by first exchanging this knight, thus freeing up the entire diagonal for the bishop. Very well, and now, chess teacher, it seems we've run out of an attack. The queen targets black squares, the bishop targets white squares, and it doesn't look like we're going to checkmate here. Well then, remember this spectacular bombshell well. Look, I love this opening, I really do. I'm telling you, leave a like if you want more videos of this opening because I really do love it. Bishop takes g2 ends up being a definitive move. If they don't accept the sacrifice and decide to move the rook, they'll have a hard time because we'll simply place the bishop here and end up mating. So this sacrifice must be accepted. Once the sacrifice is accepted, there is no way to save themselves. Our plan, place the queen on f3, right? Place the queen on f3. How? Well, very simple. First we give check, and now when the king moves, he couldn't go here because it's in check. He must go to h1. We place the queen on f3, and with check 2. As you can see, we have the queen cutting off the king, and now all we have to do is enter with the rook. All we have, right, is a queen and a rook, and they're gonna be enough to deliver checkmate. What can white try here as a last resort? Well, move the rook anywhere to be able to escape through here, because otherwise rook g6 would be checkmate. But don't worry, because we're gonna deliver it just the same. Remember this, if they've moved the rook to escape on this side, we're going to apply consistency. Do we want them to escape? No. So this queen switches sides. And now the diagonal we control is this one. So what are we threatening? Rook g6 followed by queen g2. Checkmate. The only way they can try to resist, as you can see, I'm explaining all the possible defenses so that whatever they do, you manage to checkmate them. The only thing that can try to resist is king h1, so that if we now place the rook here, they could play rook g1 defending against everything, but these are simple illusions. We're going to force the king to retreat here, and how are we going to do it? With rook h6. As you can see, we're threatening mate in 1. Is there any piece that can come to defend? No? The only way the king can try to escape is by making this move here. But simply now, since we have the queen's barrier, rook g6 check, the king has to come here, the only move, and queen g2 checkmate. What I'm going to show you now has allowed me to win many games, so pay attention. When we played knight to e4, our favorite move, in fact, we've built the whole bunker to place our knight on e4, as I was explaining, we just saw that knight to d2 was a dangerous double-edged move, but if we know it, we'll end up giving checkmate. Careful, if you hadn't seen this video, you would have captured this pawn here for sure. But alright, knight to d2 maybe isn't the most popular move, especially if the level of play isn't high elo, right? What's the most popular move if we attack a pawn? Defending it. So queen to c2 is the most popular move of all. It's defending the pawn on c3, and now it's attacking this knight with several pieces, putting a lot of pressure on the e4 square. Alright, here comes one of my favorite little opening tricks. It's a little trick that everyone falls for. We're going to play knight to c6. It's a very important move. Why? Because they're threatening to advance this pawn a lot with serious consequences, because they could start attacking us a lot on this flank. Knight to c6, first of all, stops this possible pawn advance, because we would simply capture it. Alright, but what happens with knight to c6? Where does it stop defending? The most important thing in the position. So here the players with the white pieces start like this with their hands. I've managed to win a pawn on e4 because, look, how many pieces are attacking? 1 and 2. How many are defending? Just the pawn. So here, white says, well, I'll capture this knight, bishop takes e4, pawn takes, and queen takes. They've managed to win a pawn, and not just any pawn, but the most important pawn in the position. But this is a serious mistake, friends. What are we doing? Well, now we're going to hit the queen with the discovered attack with knight to h5, gaining a tempo. Alright, this queen must retreat, but be careful because we're threatening this pawn. So the queen must go to d3. And now what? Is the attack over? Well, no. We've won the game. And the game is won in the following way. Brutal rook sacrifice, the knight falls and everything. Rook takes f3. We've won a completely whole piece. So they must capture, and simply, the queen and the bishop are going to give checkmate. Queen to g5 check, only move, king to h1, and now bishop takes f3, checkmate. So we know we should play knight to c6, right? Remember it well, to prevent them from advancing here, and to tempt our opponents a bit into capturing this knight on e4. Many of you will tell me, but it's as simple as cutting the diagonal, right? And then capturing this knight. And careful, this looks very good, and in fact, it's been played against me many times, but it's simple. I'll explain that even if they don't fall for your little tricks, you can keep pushing and win the game anyway. For example, they attack our knight. What's our plan? Well, we move it away. Now, for the moment, we're not threatening anything, but our opponent could capture this knight here, winning the pawn. And chess teacher, what happened? You've lost the pawn for nothing. Well, no, don't worry, because our attack is much stronger than the pawn. Queen e8, a move that will always serve you, because when you can't enter through the black squares, you move the queen. The queen is very flexible and will enter through the white squares. And be careful, because here I often find some very serious mistakes. For example, this queen is being targeted by discovered attacks, so a very interesting move could be to bring the queen over here. Right now, it wouldn't be possible because we'd have a fork. So, well, bring the queen through here, for example, right? But this doesn't matter to us because our rook, our bishop, our queen, everything is well placed to win the game. Let me explain. Here we could win directly with this. We attack the rook, and now we attack the queen. Typical maneuver for this knight when they decide to advance the d5 pawn, because they leave us this square that's so good for our knight. We attack the queen, and here we've already won the game. How have we won the game? Let's see. I'm gonna try. If you want, you can pause the video to see who gets the move right. I'm gonna say the solution right now. Okay. The solution is as follows: Rook takes f3. Once again, the rook to the rescue, winning the game. Why? Because now Queen g6 isn't exactly mate, but it's check, and we win the rook because it's the typical double attack. So here we'd win the rook, and surely we'd already have a strong enough advantage. Plus, the king is very exposed, so we could also enter with the bishop to win the game. This bishop can't move either, because then we'd capture the other rook. Don't tell me the Dutch doesn't hide some beastly attacks. It's also very possible that instead of developing the bishop via d3, they develop it via e2. The plans are very similar. The good thing is that if you remember the ideas well, you're going to manage to win many games. Pay attention to this. Castling. Castling. Our opponent can play, for example, a4, a typical attack plan that, careful, is very dangerous if we don't know how to stop it. But of course, since we know how to stop it, there's no problem. Knight e4. A very important move that we're always going to make. That means if it occurs to you to play knight e4, that you've studied this video well or any video of the Dutch, okay? Very good. Here we're attacking this pawn. Well, it must be defended. The most logical is queen c2. Very good. Whenever they play a 4 against us, what are we going to do? Knight c6. We've decided that that attack is going to have no future with knight c6. Now they couldn't even exchange this knight for the bishop because now the bishop isn't even attacking the knight. But careful, it's also very good here, okay? How should we continue? Well, look, here the star move we're going to make will be the following. Our idea is to play knight a5. That was an excellent move, but why exactly? Because this knight on a 5 is very well placed. Do you remember what I called you on? We exchanged a bishop for a knight on move 4. Why do you do that, chess teacher? Well, look, thanks to all these weaknesses, the knight here attacks this point right here. It also attacks this point here on many occasions. We can also apply pressure with a 6. And most importantly, who's going to kick the knight out of here? No one can. So this knight is very well placed. For example, if they decide to play bishop a6 here, bishop a3, you don't even need to play d6. You can directly play rook h6. It's a move that's always going to work for us. Whenever we can move the rook along this rank here, and they play bishop a3, we can play rook f6. Very good move. Very well. What happens if, for example, they play, first of all, come on, let's say this one. Let's play this. We play this. And now they try to trade off this very strong knight we have on e4. Very good move. Well, suddenly, all we have to do is the following. We capture here and now, and we'd have a fork, queen, and rook. We'd be winning the exchange. That's why it wouldn't be possible right now to try and trade off this knight here. And many of you will tell me, chess teacher, this is solved quickly. First, before all this, I play knight d2 so that you can't make progress. That is, for example, before you play the knight through here, I try to trade knights. Would this be possible? Yes, but don't worry because it's very simple, okay? It's very simple. Knight takes, queen takes. We place the knight here, threatening a fork, The queen has to come and defend. And now, what are we going to do? Well, we have multiple possible moves. If they attack the rook first, well, this comes through here. It's not rocket science, right? We threaten the fork, it comes through here. It's simply about understanding the ideas. But you should know this game is practically won already. Very well. Now, if they've moved away here, what we're going to do is try to come in for a checkmate attack. We attack with the rook, we want to enter with the queen, we want to enter with the bishop. This looks dangerous, and I'm sure you must make a decision here. The queen is coming in through here with quite drastic consequences, so playing g3 here is very tempting. Seems to defend everything. It defends the queen's entry. It's true, it opens up this bishop, but, well, everything can be defended well afterwards, or even do this to defend, right? But no, we've already won the game here with a fabulous move. Look, I'm just explaining attack plans that you can use in all your games, okay? The queen enters through h4, sacrificing herself entirely. Queen h4, double exclamation mark. What a great move. It threatens checkmate 1. They can only capture this queen if they want to save themselves. But they aren't saved either, because thanks to our bishop and our rook, we're going to give check. The king is immobile thanks to our bishop. Simply, they could block with the bishop, but on the next one, it would be rook takes bishop, checkmate. All right. And now comes the best part of all. You remember what I told you, right? We're here to trade. This is the basis, this bishop for this knight. For what? To wreck the pawn structure and to control e4. But many times, they won't let us wreck this pawn structure, and for example, they defend the knight. Queen b3 is a move I see in many games, and I love it when they play it. I love it. It defends the knight and attacks the bishop. One thing you should know here. We want to trade this bishop for this knight, yes, but for now, we'll try to delay it as much as we can. For example, at this moment when they're threatening us, we're going to play a 5. And here, look, I've always played this. They've always replied with a 3 to kick this bishop out and say once and for all, either you leave or you trade, right? Or not, because we have a great move, and I always play it very fast, so they think I've hung the bishop. A 4 attacks the queen. Pawn takes is not possible because we capture the queen, right? But of course, here white thinks, well, then I'll capture it with the queen, and absolutely nothing has happened here. I have an extra bishop, and I have a practically won game. Well, no, what we've managed to do is trap their queen. Incredible, and I've done it many times. Knight c6. We've managed to trap the opponent's queen. It only has 2 squares. If the queen goes to b5, simply rook a5, and the queen is left with no escape. If the queen goes to c5, it's exactly the same, but first we must play the subtle. e6 to force the queen to place itself on this square, and now, yes, rook a5 would manage to win the queen. If they develop this knight first, you develop this one to wait for them to develop the other. But if they play knight c3 first, you can come directly with the bishop, okay? There's no problem at all. You've already seen that queen b3 doesn't scare us at all. Actually, we love it since we have this plan to trap the queen. But what if queen c2? Because here it defends the knight well. Should we capture it? Well, not for now. Our idea is to capture it, yes, but when they force us, because that way our opponents lose a tempo. For example, we can keep developing knight f3. Knight f6. Our opponent can do knight f3, castle. They can play, for example, if they play a 3 here, and that way we capture, right? They can recapture with the queen, which is why they've placed it there. And for example, I can play b6, a very important move to control the important diagonal and especially the e4 point. Very well, what happens if they play bishop g5 against us? Because I see this a lot too, especially from people who don't control the openings very well. At this moment, it's not a bad idea to play bishop g5. We just have to be consistent. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to play d6 to defend it with the other knight, and in the future move the queen, for example, to e8, so it passes through here. And at this moment, we'll already be able to jump with this knight through here. The other one will replace it through here. For example, I'll explain it to you in a very easy way. e3, we play knight bd7, bishop e2. We can play queen e8 directly now, or maybe it's better to position the bishop well first. Now, queen 8, and whatever our opponent does, for example, I'm just making this up, an attack on the queen side, we could already come through here. We'd even be threatening the queen and also the bishop. Thanks to what? Thanks for the fact that the other knight has come to help. So remember, well, when they pin this knight with the bishop, the other knight comes to help, and the plan is the same. Jump to e5. But be careful, move the queen first so we don't lose it. And now comes the most fun part of the video. Pay attention to the following moves. So you can see that what I'm telling you is true, and that no matter what they play, we can carry out our plans. I'll show you this game really quickly, where the white pieces played knight c3, black came directly to pin, and white played bishop d2, a move we haven't even covered in the video. Do we care? No, because we know the plans all too well. b6 to control this square. The game continued with knight c3, bishop e7. As you can see, the usual e3, knight f6. Black is preparing very well. Do we take here? No, not for now, because they're not kicking us out. So what does white do, or excuse me, what does black do? Well, they keep developing their pieces. Here, white has been, annoying again and hasn't threatened, but instead castled. No problem. E6 and so on. As far as want, I'm going to play the knight here. And in the game here, they already played a 3. A logical move that has to come sooner or later, right? They force us, to capture this knight here. After bishop takes, we've recaptured this knight. Now, this knight on e4 is the master and lord of the position. We're all threatening to win this bishop wherever it goes. The only possible one is e1, which is actually a good move because it defends everything. That's what the white pieces did. And now simply knight d7. As you can see, the plans are similar. Knight d2. Now, when the knight leaves, it leaves us a free entry for the queen. And look at how well this black player finished them off. Question, if they capture this knight, what do we capture with? With the bishop or with the pawn? Well, here the most natural thing would be to capture with the bishop, but the best move would be to capture with the pawn. If we capture with the bishop, it's true, we don't double pawns, it would be the most natural. And besides, we don't block it like we do this way. But this pawn right now acts as a brutal block. In fact, we're threatening to move the rook through here, even bring the other one, bring the knight and deliver checkmate. So it seems the only way they have to free themselves is f3, but it wouldn't be possible because the queen would enter with check. So how did white do it to try to resist this position? Well, they defended this pawn to try to play f3. Very good idea. Black, well, what do? Rook f6, a move that, as you can see, would occur to all of you if you've studied this video well. Now, f3, and simply what the black pieces did was exchange this pawn here, now exchange the bishop, as you can see, and I simply bring the other rook so that I double the rooks and the opponent is far from bringing their other rook to the defense. All right, so now we're threatening to win a rook, right? Rook takes rook, queen takes rook, it could even be rook takes queen. Remember that this pawn is pinned, so white captured here. Knight takes to bring the knight into the attack, both on the e4 square and the g4 square. And simply, here white made another mistake, right? They keep making tiny mistakes all the time that you really have to be an extremely strong player not to make. It's very difficult to play with the white pieces against this defense. e4 to make a discovered attack, simply. The queen moves away, and now this pawn is captured, since it's being attacked by 2 pieces. White played rook f1, but this already seals the game, because after rook takes rook, king takes rook, queen f6 check would come, and when the king moves, queen takes pawn, and as you can see, it's check. And it's not just check, but now we're also going to capture this bishop right here. Obviously, white decided to resign right here. As you can clearly see, white didn't do exactly what I explained, but the strategic plans are always the same. If you'd like me to show you a real game on how to apply the opening or defense at the end of each video, let me know in the comments. I like to do what you guys enjoy watching the most. So save this video to study it as many times as you need. Someone might have it down after 2 times, someone else might need 7 or 8. It's fine, as many as you need. The video will be there for free forever whenever you want to watch it. So save it well. I hope you loved it, and we'll see you tomorrow, as always, in the next video, friends. Bye.